All right, today we're going to start our first interview here, and we're about to introduce Mr. Lupe Sanchez. He could tell us a little bit more on his background today. My name is Sebastian Garcia.
My name is Alejandro Peña.
We're starting this new project called Voices of Corazón, and we'll see how it goes. Thank you all for being here. All right, so the first question we have for you, if you could just introduce yourself again, that would be great.
My name is Lupe Sanchez.
Can you tell me a little bit about where you're from and your life before becoming homeless or just in an underserved area?
Okay, originally I'm from Corpus Christi, Texas. Uh, as far as my background goes, Hispanic. I grew up in a broken home. I was raised by my stepfather, my mother. I'm the youngest out of four. Grew up in a cultural upbringing where hardships were the reality. It was a norm growing up. Gangs, drugs, addiction, neglect, abuse was a common thing, something brushed under the carpet, as you might say. Um, and I'm 38 years old at the moment. Uh, Growing up, it wasn't too easy. I remember having a young, innocent childhood like everybody else, I remember being an AB honor roll student. Uh, I love art, but there was always something different about me, as far as me and my family. I was the lost child, I guess you can say. But I fell into many different categories as far as where I was placed in the household because of the upbringing. It was a challenge. I was raised in a lower income family. Um, I started getting introduced to the streets, hardships at a very young age. Uh, I'm a survivor of child sexual abuse. I'm a survivor of psychological, physical abuse. Uh, I used to have a political background. I dealt with the penal system. I dealt with addiction. I've had my success stories. And all in all, this would be one of my best success stories so
Thank you for sharing that, and we appreciate you having the trust with us to share that.
Sir, you mentioned that you've had a lot of hardships, and it sounds like you've been very disciplined, but you've been very strong, like a diamond unbreakable. Through all these hardships, what do you feel has been the biggest lesson that you've learned? What has stuck with you despite all these challenges, all this negativity? How have you continued? How have you kept going?
far. Oh, man. Um, Honestly, there was times in my life where I threw in the rag. I wanted to cash in my chips. I felt hopeless. I felt like there was no place for me in society because I grew up in an era. I was an 87's baby, but I was always told if you grow up in this type of lifestyle, you're a low income family, you're from the hood, they call the ghetto, the type of cultural upbringing. They're like, okay, this is what your future is going to look. I believed it. I believed it with open arms because I was told that this is who I was supposed to be. My identity as a person. I'm 38 years old and I'm still trying to figure that out. As far as the hardships, what I've learned is that there's times where you have no control. There's times where you just have to learn to adapt. Personally, a lot of it was anger and fear that drove me, and a lot of hurt. I've dealt with a lot. I've lost a lot. If I was in my old thoughts, in my old ways, I would have thought that I lost everything, and that that would have still had the same old thinking. I'm sober today. I've dealt with so much addiction. I've gained so much that I never thought I'd be able to gain now, but it came with the cost of having to endure a lot. Because of my childhood, running in the streets, a part of me was neglectful to my responsibilities, my education, my family, my morals, my beliefs, my goals. And I literally was this individual, and I hit this one point in my lifestyle where I actually was okay with being that stereotype, that affiliate, that hoodlum, that delinquent. I was like, this is what I'm meant to be. I'm going to be the best at it. It cost me so much. I've had encounters with a lot of very scary situations. I don't want to get into many details about that. I have scars to prove it, but also I have scars that are not physical. I always asked myself, why? I mean, I didn't know my story, but as you said, as far as voices go, I never thought that I was a voice meant to be heard. I didn't feel like I deserved it because regardless of all the things that I would do in the past, a part of me was like, why don't you just get yourself out of the way so you don't have to hurt nobody and nobody has to hurt you and you ain't got to be a. I literally would have this talk for those who do believe in God. I was like mad at him. I was like, why do you have me here? I'm hurting people. Do me and you a favor and get me out of the way because I care. And regardless of all the hate, there was always a part of me that cared. So what I learned was I always cared. I just never knew that. I didn't know how to love because I didn't know what love is. Love was a hard thing to find because I don't know my mom's story. My mom dealt with a lot. My dad dealt with a lot. We all dealt with a lot. But I was learned to love those who still hurt you. I did it for so long to where I settled, to where I felt like I needed to be low in order to feel high. And I needed to be accepted by servitude. I got to the point where I didn't know how to live. It was okay with telling people, I don't know how to be out here. I don't know how to live, especially with the whole running the streets and dealing with the penal system. I spent a lot of time incarcerated. It brainwashes. Right now, I'm still learning how to live out here. I don't even know how to pay taxes. Never really held a job. I'm barely breaking this whole thing, this social thing. Scares the crap out of me. I'm not used to it. I'm doing it. I'm right here. But what I've learned was to be humble, to not have a reason to care, just care just because. You don't have to have a reason when it comes to caring for people, when it comes to loving others. It doesn't matter who they are, where they're from, or their background, their cultural upbringing, religion, whatever it is. Everybody's entitled to be cared for. Everybody has a cultural upbringing. Everybody has ancestors. Everybody has a history. You're here because you're meant to be here. Everybody, whether what race you are, your religion, what country you come from, all your history before you, your ancestors, your great grandmother, to hundreds of years back, all of them went through these hardships. All of them went through these struggles. All of them went through love, everything that we're going through right now. And they were allowed to give seed, to bring life forward into this world, to still hold on to this thing that we call love. And it all came down so you could be here. You yourself as an individual, whoever you are, male, female, race, cultural background, you're here. All of them went through all that just so you can be here. And my family never taught me to be close to my roots, but something just told me to hold on to it growing up. It came natural. And I am a firm believer in God. As far as a religious base, a lot of people say you're important. The way I see it is that this whole universe and all this stuff that we can't explain can't function without you. So you're needed. It needs you. So you're that important key. You're that one missing key. As far as your voice not being heard, as far as you feeling like you're not alone, you're not. I'm here. I used to not think like this. I used to be very pessimistic. I used to have a lot of hate. And now I don't. And I thank y'all. Because if it wasn't for y'all, if it wasn't for my hardships, if it wasn't for those that don't know me, I don't know how to explain it, but I'm gonna tell you like this. I've learned and grasped and got so much help from people that I don't know. Strangers. Why? I don't know. There was times where I'll remember that it was the farthest thing from my mom. And I felt like I didn't belong. So when you feel like you don't belong, you try to sometimes get yourself out the way. For those that feel like that, I encourage you to I just want to let you know that you're not alone. You're not the only one that feels that. Some of us just have a game face. But this isn't a game, this is life. Regardless of how scary and how much fun, because it's not always dark. You have to ups and downs. But it's a one big life lesson. I've heard somebody say something that's called this thing called life, learning how to do this thing called life. I know a lot because I read a lot. I've been locked up. You know what I mean? You have no time on your hands to read, but I'd rather be wise. I'd give it all back just to be wise because I don't want to know it. I want to understand because there's a lot that I don't understand. If I don't understand, how can I help the next person? Now I don't live for me. I live for others. Right now, the reason I'm sitting before you and I'm able to do this interview is because I always wanted to do something like this, but I can't do it because of my background, because of my living situation. One thing I can say is that thanks to these individuals right here, I'm able to do something that I've been wanting to do. It's not being heard, it's who's listening, and me being able to be the voice for those who can't speak. There's people out there that are too afraid, too scared, and there's people out there that just don't know. I don't either. But I'm right here right now. I'm letting you know. I learned to be humble and to care. It's hard, but I'm getting there.
Lupe, thank you for explaining this, going so in depth and speaking from the heart is beautiful. It's exactly what you're explaining. The stigma, especially in our country, in Latin America, against people that are underserved, is something that we are trying to break with this. So thank you for being extremely brave, having the trust in us to speak with such confidence and openness. Yeah, very much a leap of faith. But you, as we can tell, you're a man of faith. God has helped you and has put people, like you said, complete unknowns, but those are angels. God is putting angels in front of you, telling you, hey, you do matter. Just as you're telling us that we matter, you do matter. God is telling you that you do matter, and that's beautiful. Thank you for showing me a different viewpoint because I have been struggling with my things. And I have had many ideations. Seeing, as you told me, that it's not just you alone. It brings me peace, it brings me happiness, and I think you're extremely brave for giving also a voice, but also the people that we serve at this clinic. It is something very necessary. Thank you for being that voice, being that rock, being that leader for these people starting this. And Lupe, I would love to know how I understand it's an amalgam of reflections because you're a very reflective man that have made you do better decisions. But what was the event that made you realize, hey, I'm not living how God wants me to live? What made you switch your way of living?
I didn't really think about it as a big issue. When I was younger, I had put myself in a lot of near-death situations. I made attempts on my life before, and I've hung myself before. I've OD'd. I've jumped off overtime. There's times where I made it. I'm opening up closets right now, putting out some skeletons. The reason I'm doing this is not just because I have an opportunity to do it, because I'm pretty sure it's best to do it now so other people can hear so that you ain't alone. I've been abused and all that. It made me feel like I did something wrong. But also, I didn't know how to love, so I learned how to hate. And it came with a lot of consequences. Just because you hurt doesn't mean you have to hate. But for me, it was losing my life. I wanted to give my life away. It was never because I was tired. It was never because I was weak. It was never because I was giving up. It was because I was tired of hurting. Tired of seeing people's faces that care about me and trying to act like I don't care and seeing the pain in their eyes. I literally cut off my family. I haven't talked to them in a very long time. Some of them in years. Some of them think I'm not even alive anymore. But it did that because I'd rather had done that than be there than to have them worried, wondering if I'm okay, you know? And it's a hard decision to make, but I'm doing it. I thought I lost family, but then God put everybody else out there. But I had, we're doing this so you can learn something. That my mom, my sister, my nephew all died. Suicide. You know, my mom hung herself. My dad found her the next day in the back of the house hanging from the tree while he was getting ready to take my nephew to school. My nephew had to be exposed to that. I don't know what happened. He got rebellious depression. Next thing you know, he shoots himself in the head. And then his mom gets depressed. So she starts drugging. Next, she has MRSA. And I'm in prison while this is going down. I'm getting called down to the chaplain, one after another. To be honest, my mind frame wasn't like that. I'd be like, okay, I had no time for that. I know some people deal with that out here where you just have to brush things to a side because you feel like there's other things that need to be taken care of. I did that because I felt I had no time. There was no time for weakness. People see that on me. I'm gonna have to deal with some issues. It's a whole nother world. After a while, like the third time down, I had people that didn't even know me. They just knew me by my name because I used to tattoo and draw on there. I was that guy. I was that, they were crying for me. And I was like, why are you crying? They're like, dude, how do you do it? What are you talking about? I was like, dude, you've been down there how many times? What happened? I said, you're nothing wrong with me. I ain't got time for that. That's how I dealt with that. When I got out, I didn't want to get out. I remember being called by I was in school. My cellie had 99 years. So I thought he did something. And then I got in trouble because he's my cellie. They called me down. They're like, hey, pack your stuff. I was like, what happened? Am I getting locked down? They're like, no, you're leaving. I was like, what are you talking about? They started laughing at me. Said, you're going home. I was like, no, I'm not. I said, no, I'm not. I said, no, you're going home. I was like, no, I got things. I got unfinished business. I got my friends here. I got my family. What I thought was family. I said, I got my life here. I literally was so neglectful towards myself, not because of being hateful, but because I didn't know how to care in a way to where other people would understand that I wanted to care in a manner where I don't want to hurt you. I want to help you. But I was already brought up in this way. So if I was a problem, get yourself out the way. My mom used to have this saying, mejor solo con malo compañía. Spanish. You're better off by yourself than around bad company. But what if you're the bad company? So I was like, okay, I had this thought in my mind, if I'm the bad company, I've already got myself out the way. So pack your stuff, you're leaving. I was like, man, once I got back to my block, I was crying. I was like, why are you crying? Did somebody else pass away? I was like, nah. They're like, what's wrong? I was like, I'm leaving. They're like, they're walking me down. And I was like, nah, dude, they're letting me go. They're like, why are you crying? I was like, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I didn't have nothing out there. Right? I felt like I had nothing out there. Regardless how big that world was, there was times where I'd step out there. Regardless how many people around me, I felt like I was the only one there naked. I wasn't even being considered like a leaf blowing off a tree to be lost and forgotten. I felt like everything was okay because there's structure. I was scared every time I come out here. I tend to mess things up because I didn't know how to live out here. But it was one of those things society, like, they throw you out there. Like, que te vaya bien. Hey, hopefully you're okay. Don't worry, if it don't work out, we're ready to got your spot right here. You can always come back. And I literally had this thing. I was institutionalized where I used to get arrested in county in jail, and my friends would be like, hey, don't worry about it, I'll be back. And I'd come right back. As selfish as it sounds, I'd come back on purpose, just so they know that they weren't alone as bad as them.
And Lupe, since you've been out, have you? I realize it is hard to create structure, stay on top of taxes, all those responsibilities that they never really teach you. You just have to understand, and it sucks because I guess that's how the system is. But have you found that you've been able to adapt somewhat to society? Have you found that despite how set back and how little experiences you had, you've been able to overcome this?
I needed to run into a lot of walls. It's a lot of trial and error, but also it's my thinking process. I literally had to get arrested again. And this time I was like, okay, I'm going back to prison and I'm never coming out again. But I want to be a better person and I want to be able to help people while I'm in there. And so I decided to get on this thing called an Endovo app, and I started working on myself. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I enrolled in courses and classes. I was seeking things that I didn't know. I was like, what's really going on? I did some therapy and stuff like that, and I finally was able to get a little bit of understanding why my brain works the way it does. I was an early bloomer. I started using crack cocaine when I was 13 years old, first abuse. At that point, your mind doesn't grow naturally like most people. I'm 38 years old. Sometimes I feel like I'm 20. The world don't stop. I had it messed up. I had it wrong. There's a lot of y'all out there that see these, and you already know who I am because of what you've heard, what you think, or what you believe in. I don't even know who I am. In reality, I don't think any of us know who we are. We just try to fit in, but we can't because we have so much other things to choose. Whether they're friends, your family, your social status, your influence. Like, this is my first time being able to speak up. It's hard, but at the same time, it's a learning lesson. You know what I mean? I wear, these are my stories, but I never would have been here if I didn't go through this because it got me to question, why would somebody think like that? But then I would put myself in their shoes. Not everybody's really different. We're all the same. We all can actually help each other if we could just see past all that. My grandma has more tattoos than me, bro. I'm gonna tell you like that. Yes. Yeah. Just a food for thought.
As they say, alone we're just one drop, together we're an ocean, and that's how we should all be here. I have a few more questions to wrap this up. You mentioned you got out of prison and you're out here. There's something that keeps you out here. What hopes and dreams do you have for your future? How can we continue to help you, and how could people out there help you?
Okay. As far as my hopes and dreams at the beginning, they were pretty hard. I was selfish. I wanted to be this person with money, cars, success. But what was success? I didn't know. I thought I knew what success was. And it ain't what it used to be. Now, this may sound weird for those who do know me, and if any family or friends that knew me before, is this dude really saying, is this really him? Yeah, but this is me. But now, it's not even about me anymore. I'm not saying I don't care. Of course I care. But now it's about everybody else. I don't know how to explain it, but it brings a smile to my face. It's about everybody else. It's not about me. And it's hard. It's like a family. You can love them, but you don't have to have a relationship. And you always have that one family member. Yeah, we love you, but yeah, we love you. It's not about me. It's about everybody. Because I'm a small piece of this whole. But in that same sense, regardless if you're the richest man on earth, or you're that person nobody even knows about, or that person who's going through stuff, or that world's most wanted individual, you're an important piece of this whole. And at the end of the day, it's all for the glory of the Lord, if you are a believer. But if you're not a religious person, I'm going to say for the greater good of all. Because I remember being young and I would look at my elders and be like, what are y'all doing? I thought I knew everything. Now I'm older and I'm looking down to, whoa. You know what I mean? But it's not about me anymore. It's about everybody else. I don't have to know you. It gets challenging when I do run into those people that look at me and they're like, you have no right to be trying to do this. Or, nah, I look at you, you can't do this. I'm sitting before you, letting you know, guess what I'm doing.
I love that. And we're always here to help. Our goal is to help as many people as we can and be that one drop that makes this an ocean. Last question, final question. What would your message be if it could appear on every billboard on earth for one day? Just simple message for everybody.
God loves you, so I love you too.
Thank you for your time and thank you for trusting us with this interview.